All right. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Jocelyn. I am the customer enablement specialist here at Encompass. Today, we're going to be talking about product and customer management here with Lori. Got lots of content to cover today. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and throw them in that Q&A button there at the bottom, and we'll make sure and stop and get those answered for you. And with that, I'm going to pass this off to Lori for our first skills kickstart session on product and customer management.
All right. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. This session on product and customer management is we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the main things to think about when you are creating, maintaining those kinds of records. They're the heart of the story. And my name is Lori Hamill. I'm the Customer Enablement Program Manager here at Encompass. This is our very first in the series we're calling Skills Kickstart. So this Skills Kickstart series is really intended for people who have been promoted within your organization, or if you're new to the organization and really learning how to get the basics of Encompass in different sort of ways. So the kind of person who is great for this session is one who is creating and managing those product records within your organization, or adding new or maintaining, again, customer records within your organization. Our agenda today is going to cover those new products, how to deal with existing products, like the kinds of things that you need to think about. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those alternate use cases for seasonal or discontinued products. So all of those sort of states that a product can be in your site. We'll then go on to the customers section where we'll talk about some similar sort of life cycles. It'll be creating new customers, how to manage existing customers, and deactivating or closing those kinds of customers. So the sort of different states a customer can be in your site. To get us started, this is what we'll talk about for new products. When you are creating a new product, and I want to be really clear here for any of the producers that have attended this session, people who are, our brewers, our distillers, our vintners, all of those on the producer side of the house who are creating products in your site, this session is really going to focus on the finished goods. So not necessarily raw materials and not necessarily your WIP products, but those finished goods that are ready for sale. So just keep that in mind as we talk about these new customers, but the pricing and promotions that we would want to assign to them. We are not adding products just to increase our own portfolio. Ultimately, we need to sell them. So the price that we sell them at is a huge part of that equation, and getting the right price to the right customer at the right time that's the job. That's what we're all here to do. In addition to that, in part of making those sales, thinking about things like, do we need income or asset account maps for the new product we've created? Now, we do recommend that you're using certain tools to create those products, but in the process of that, we have a field that identifies the product type. And if you are adding a new brand, a new supplier, a new product type, those are the kind of reasons that we might or might not need to create a new asset or income account map to align with this new product, so that the money that we're making off of it gets pulled into the right accounts in our mapped system. As we're adding this new product, things to consider might be something like product cost plans. If that's something that your organization is doing, product cost plans can be really helpful in sort of the predictability and normalization of how those products get brought into the system, the pricing that we expect to pay for them in order to run better forecasts, to make sure that this is the right product for us at this time. We've touched on the pricing aspect of it, but authorizations and allocations are a huge essential part of making sure the right product gets to the right customer. What kind of restrictions do we have about that? And do we have any guardrails in place on how much volume people can buy? Is it reserved for specific customers? So those authorizations and allocations enable us to do that best. They create those sort of repeatable business logic that gets those products to those customers. If you're doing anything like the price posting process in California, or for any of your chain stores where you have to send out that pricing, those product authorizations make a big difference in how that pricing gets posted to them. Finally, we'll talk a little bit about bins and pick rules. So, in a perfect world, we are bringing that product in, but it is a physical thing and it has to go somewhere in your warehouse. So, the space that you have allocated for it and the logic that you'll use to pick it as part of, the pallets or processes that you have in place are very important for adding that new product. When we get into the product maintenance aspect of it, some things to consider. Again, you're going to see this again and again, pricing and promotions. So, pricing and promotions are not something that stays static. We've all gone through those pricing changes. We see inflation happening. We see those changes coming back, on our product cost plans or in our purchases. Costs increase over time, and we do offer different pricing and promotions to different front lines, for example. The base price might be different for some of those customers, depending on what state you're in, but maintaining that is part of that product's story. And it should be considered not just on a yearly basis when we're refreshing our front lines or when we're creating some new promotions. Buy 5, get 1 free, for example, or a price or discount option. Those are the kinds of things that happen throughout the year, and they change the story and trajectory of that product over time. So it isn't something that it's not like a crock pot. We don't just set it and forget it. We come back to this pricing and promotions to refresh it periodically throughout the year. Now, we offer something called the product manager that makes certain things a lot easier. Things like the brand of the product, the images that we use, the dimensions or the UPCs, and these are all sort of found in that product manager. So we'll talk about what that looks like and how to use that best. In the world of product maintenance, we would be remiss if we did not talk about seasonality. Seasonal products are the things we're most familiar with. It could be the fall, summer, spring, winter sort of products that flow through. And the way that we want to manage those is not necessarily by doing the same product record and recycling it, updating it on a seasonal basis, but creating individual products. So that's going to help us manage our inventory and deplete it appropriately so that the new product can come in using that same space if needed. But seasonality is an important way to think about your products. And again, we come back to this idea of authorizations and allocations. We've seen this several times where things change, the laws change, and it could be based on the fiscal year or the calendar year. And if those authorizations change in your state for the ability to sell in convenience stores by certain alcohol by volume, that's something that you would want to consider as part of those authorizations and allocations. Finally, we'll talk about, again, these are physical goods. These take up space in our warehouse. So making sure that the space exists, that the inventory gets counted and is being replenished in appropriate ways are all sort of this product maintenance aspect of things that we're going to be looking into. So something that is different about any of that product maintenance for our producers, our brewers, vintners, and distillers versus those distributors is the ways that we're sort of accessing this global database for products in DSD Link. Are you editing that record? Are you the creator of this product and you need to make sure all of that data flows through? Or are you accessing it and refreshing it from your own database? And those kinds of things are beneficial for both sides. It makes your product really saleable. So maintaining your information on that global database makes it easy for everybody else to pull that down. We create that single source of truth. Finally, before we get into the demo side for products, I want to go over the things to think about, your considerations for seasonal or discontinued products specifically. Now, I touched on seasonality in the product maintenance aspect of it, but what exactly does that mean? Your pricing and promotions, again, we come back to this. If I have a seasonal product and it needs to be depleted, is there a consideration to offer another kind of promotion to be able to clear that space out? When we're in fall heading into winter, If there is the pumpkin spice flavored seltzer that needs to get depleted from my inventory so that the holiday one can take its place, that's something that I should consider. And pricing and promotions is a great way to make sure that those things move. Again, we would touch on the product manager here, because if the producer of that product, that brewer who created my pumpkin spice seltzer, has put seasonal dates on that product to manage, it's really easy to pull those things down, and then it just gets set. Once it's in the system, once it's in your site, then all of these sort of checks and balances will just flow through naturally. Those key fields for seasonality are going to be on the product level specifically. It'll be start and end dates, as well as the in-season field. So we'll take a look at that together. Additionally, when we're thinking about seasonality, we are thinking about that inventory. So I've kind of talked about this in a couple of different ways now, but if I have a product taking up physical space in my warehouse, then, the goal is to sell it. And if it's a seasonal product, then I want to sell out of that, make as much money as I can off of it, and then have something new take its place. Empty space in my warehouse doesn't do me any good. And if I have a seasonal product, then I'm hoping to be able to slot that seasonal product in that same physical space. So, that inventory status and status effective indicate how much of that product I need to sell, and where it currently is in its life cycle. If a product is no longer in season, but I still have inventory, I would need to know how to handle that in order to be able to move it out, hopefully sell it, move it out of my inventory through a sale. And again, authorizations and allocations. If the seasonal product is no longer in season, then I would hope that those authorizations are being managed appropriately, and any of those allocations should be end dated. So if you're in the habit of using allocations, anywhere you see a start or an end date, this is on products, on allocations, on any other record, leverage that end date so that you're able to increase the predictability and make Encompass do some of that hard work of how you consider and what you do with your products. Now, the final aspect that I would touch on for seasonal and discontinued products is that if you've ever been in a site that you can't see those seasonal or discontinued products, it may be because there is a special permission for those on the user record that is titled all locations permission. And it can be true or false. And when it's set to false, you're actually not able to see those discontinued products. The things that are not in season wouldn't even show up on your products table because you can't see all of the locations. And part of the reason for that is that inventory status effective aspect. We want to make sure that the products that you're seeing to manage are appropriate for your view. So if you aren't seeing seasonal products, it may be that, and you should contact your administrator to evaluate if that's a permission that you need to have. All right, so I've talked about what we're going to go over. Let's dive into it together. Getting into this demo, let me hop over to the products table. And the way that I got here, you'll find that in Encompass, there's often multiple ways to get to the same thing. And I default to the universal search. So if you're looking for this table, haven't navigated here, it's as easy as that. We go into universal search, select the products table, and hop right into it. Now, I'm going to start with creating a new product, showing you what that flow looks like and some of the considerations that I talked about on that very first slide. So there are 3 ways to create any product. I could click on this add product button, and I'm now brought to a screen where there's just about nothing filled out. This is completely blank. Create your own adventure. This is a lot of fields to fill out though, and I don't necessarily want to do that. That isn't the most efficient way to create a product. Another way to create a product is to copy it. So I'm just going to select a product. And again, when I arrow into it and go to the subtables view, I now have the item to copy this product. When I click on copy, I can see that so much more of this data is filled out. Now, it is a one-to-one match. So I would need to go through this screen kind of carefully to make sure that I am changing the name and any of the other sort of required fields about it. But the best candidate for making a copy from is something that shares a lot of the same information. So if I'm copying a seltzer, I am probably making another seltzer because I don't want to have to recreate or re-enter some of these fields like package or product type or brand. If there's that kind of information that I can leverage, this is a more efficient way of creating the same information. I just don't have to fill out every field. So if there are those kinds of shared characteristics, think about how you might be able to use table copy to do that. Now, the last way I'm going to show you to create a product is from what we call DS-dealing global products. And this is our preferred method, and I'll show you why in a minute. I think it'll be really clear. So either from the products table or from this product that I'm on, I can see this great big button that's just calling to me. I can see that this is the button that I want to click, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into our global products list. Now, in the global products list, you can search by either brand or supplier. I am going to search for a supplier that we have for demo purposes. It's Wind and Clouds. And I'm going to select one of our demo products from there. So I've searched now for that supplier. I'm going to select the supplier that I want to go into, and now I'm going to start looking for my product. Now, I am already carrying their 6-pence stout, and I know that that's a seasonal product. So I want to pull in the next season of their products, and that's going to be this 19th anniversary golden ale. That's what they're releasing this year for summer. So I look through this list of the products that are on offer. I've got a 6-barrel keg, I've got a 12-pack of bottles, and I've got a 4 6-pack of also bottles. So I'm going to select this 12-pack. And when I do that, I can see that these check boxes are here. If you ever run into it where you do not see check boxes, it could be one of two things. The first option is that is a discontinued product. It's no longer something that you're able to pull into your site because it's discontinued. Or it could be because your site already has that. So the reasons that you would not be able to select something are usually one of those two. We would not want to create a duplicate product of something that we already have. And we also don't want to bring in things that we can't order. If this is a discontinued product on the end of the producer, then it doesn't make sense that I would pull that in. Now, if I wanted to, I could actually pull in multiple things at a time. I would simply select more boxes. I could add them to the import queue and continue to browse from within global products, doing all of this at the end. I'm not going to do that today, but I do want you to know that that is an option. And if you're on the producer side, if you're adding a product, know that this add global product is the option that you would take in order to make this product accessible for you. Ultimately, it looks very similar, so I'm going to proceed with adding the product, and I'm going to do this 12-pack of 750 bottles. So once I have the product selected, I just click on Import Products from Database, and now I'm brought to a screen where I start to synthesize that global product data with my own site. So the things that I can see here are product ID. Now, if you are one of those teams that sort of begins to view a product by the ID that you see, selecting a product ID could be something that's really important to you. If I know that all of my Wind and Clouds products start with 15, they're 4 digits long, and this is the second version, then I might put that in, and I can actually see that that product ID is not available in this site. This one is, so I would be able to manually set a product ID based on whatever naming conventions I'm using in this site at this point of creation. At no other point in the product's life cycle am I able to change the product ID or manually set it. So it's here that I would be thinking about doing those kinds of things. I would also be able to set my product name. So if my abbreviation for bottle is BTL, I could abbreviate it there. I actually know that it's NR in this site, so I'm going to name it appropriately in this product name field. Now, what I'm not able to change here is the package. The reason for that is this is identifying what it knows that package to be. That's not the name that I have this package in my site. So I'm going to start by going into the package field and I am looking for 12 packs of NR. And that is the package that corresponds with this. I'll also need to identify a product type. And this is a repeal product type. That's the naming convention that I have here. And I believe we are greater than 6%. I would be able to identify that from the product in another way. I mean, this is data that I would have to have if I have that as a product type. So that's what I'm selecting here is, again, from my local site, from my own training database is where I'm matching. And that's where this sort of coming together is happening of the data that's provided about this and how do I make that digestible for me and my team. Now I'll continue to go through this. I know that this product is 104 cases per pallet and 13 cases per layer. This is something that I know about this supplier, so it's inherited knowledge, but it is something that you would be able to look up or wait until that purchase comes through and set it there. Looks like I don't have case and carrier UPC pulled in. So, that would be an opportunity for my Wind and Clouds Brewing Company to be able to provide that because it's fields like this that truly add the value to it. And actually, I'm going to go back on this and we're going to select the other one because I know that that's true. So let me reselect this and we're going to do this again. So that one is the repeal and the 4, 6, 12, there we are, NR. But now you are seeing that because this data is set for case and carrier and unit, it's pulling through on this individual record. And let me just add these back too, because, I'm nothing if not complete, right? Very, I know I work at a software company, so I am very data driven, but again, I think this is the value of this record is that I am thinking about what is happening down the line. And when my people are pulling in this purchase, when they're standing at the receiving dock, I want them to be able to have the correct information in front of them. Now, here's my case, carrier, and unit UPC. I'm also seeing things like the case weight in pounds, height, width, length. Now, if you've ever had to deal with any of these fields being incorrect, your UPC is incorrect for EDI, your weight incorrect for load balancing reasons on your truck or the space that you have provided, then you immediately can see the value of being able to leverage this information. So if, let's say this height is off by 1 inch, I have 13 layers. This is telling me that I'm expecting this pallet to be an extra foot in height, right? That is not what it's not something that fits in my truck. The extra height means that I might have to evaluate the space in my warehouse it goes. What's the shelf height that I'm able to put this product in when it's in inventory? Do I have to break down a pallet to do that? I sure hope not. But when that data is correct, it just means that everything is easier about the transport, storage, and sale of that product. And when those UPCs are correct, I'm just making money off of it. If I'm using EDI, because they just transmit. There's no errors, transmits as expected. And I think these UPCs are very prone to human error. If you've ever had to manually enter a UPC, you know how easy it would be to invert 2 of the numbers. And this is something that we see. So make your data so easy that it is like, just get paid for your products. The job of Encompass is to help you get products to your customers and get paid for them. And that's what these global records help us do. It allows you to sort of get you bandwidth back in your day to have more important conversations or more important analysis than did I accidentally invert 2 numbers on this UPC that now I'm going to have to go back in and fix and resend EDI. So make that simple. Now, the final thing I'm going to set in here is price, and we are selling this at $23.97 a case. Sometimes that price field, a suggested price, is going to come down from the producer, and if you're a producer, it's easy to fill that in. So make sure that that information is accessible. Now, the final things that I'm going to set here are sell by case only, and I want my team to be able to pick up by units. So if you have questions about those two fields, I would ask Bev what those things mean and what they're doing. But this is the configuration that would tell my salespeople they can't sell a partial case, but if those units are, broken or outdated or damaged in any way, we could pick them up by individual units. All right, so when I click Save Changes, this is just done. So I can say that I want to view this new record. This is now a product that is in my site. Now, the story doesn't end here. Just because I set up this product data, that doesn't mean that this has all the pricing that I really want. So I'm going to go into these subtables and I will look at some of those things that we talked about. I see allocations, I see product authorizations, product cost plans. I'm going to go ahead and add promotions products for this because I want it to be in a front line, but it's not yet on I'm not offering a discount or anything for it. It just needs to be in a front line. So my promotion is, oh my goodness. All right, we're going to put it in a front line. Guys, I know that I'm selecting something specific. You'll know those naming conventions. You should know what front line it needs to go into and then be able to set that amount. So again, I know I'm selling this at $23.97, so I'll enter that in here in the amount field. It does not need to contribute to a quantity discount, so I'm going to take that off. And anything that has participation on it, so if you're in some kind of partnership where someone is paying a portion of this, I could enter that in here. So let's say that Wind and Clouds is offering me, a distributor, $1 for every case I sell. I could enter that in. That's not the case today, so I'm going to zero that out, but I wanted you to know what it was. And then I just add the record. So now my new product has pricing. It doesn't yet have any restrictions on the authorizations. The default portion of the system means that anybody can get any product at any time. And so that is the logic behind allocations and product authorizations, is that if you are with a chain that needs specific authorizations for their pricing, you would add product authorizations. If you are in areas that restrict the sale of certain products, you would want to make inclusions and exclusions using these product authorizations. I'm not going to create any for this one, but know that that is the easiest way to get here. So part of that product creation. And same story with allocations. So when I think about creating an allocation, this is a new product. We're very excited about it. And I think I want to limit the amount that people are able to get. Maximum of 5 cases for this new exciting craft product that's seasonal. So that type of allocation is what I would be creating here. And now when I click on create allocations directly from this product, we see what happens is that the product is automatically filled in. The system knows where I came from and is auto-filling the product line. Now, if I had gone as far as navigating to the allocations table from here, it couldn't know that. So that string of my clicks is, it's not broken. It just doesn't exist in this way because I'm not following that same path. I'm not going to do that. And I'm also not going to complete this allocation because that isn't necessarily the conversation that we're having today, but it is worth thinking about both of those things. So continuing on in my new product journey, I now want to look at product cost plans. And again, easy subtable. Excuse me, need a little drink of tea. Oh boy. All right. So if you are a company who is using product cost plans, oh goodness, then you probably know about it. Oh gosh. Sorry, everybody. I don't know what. Talking for 30 minutes will sure put a tickle in your throat. If you are using product cost plans, this is often something that you would already know about. Again, very much like allocations, the focus of this is not on what are product cost plans, just making it easier for product setup and things to consider if you're using them. They're not a requirement for any new product that you add, so it is up to you and your site and your business logic to determine if that's something that you're going to add. All right, so we've talked about some of those things. Now let's talk about inventory. So I do not have any bin inventories right now, and it is because I created the product, but I have not yet purchased it in. All this enables by creating the product is that it can now be added to to a purchase, and a purchase is what results in inventory. So bin inventories currently doesn't have anything in it, nor would I want to add it. But I would be wanting to think about what bin it's going into and what the logic is for picking behind it. Now, because I didn't change this is already a known supplier. I actually already had this brand in place. I didn't have to create one when I added the product. And this isn't it's a product type that I'm familiar with. I actually don't have to change any of that logic unless there's something special about it. Is it going in a different spot in the warehouse? Is it on a certain kind of pallet? Is there a certain pick team that we would allow to pick this product? Those are the kind of things that would influence if and when I needed to evaluate bins and pick rules for a new product that I'm adding. But that's also why I don't have inventory yet, is none of that is in place. We want to make sure that those things run smoothly when it does. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about now is managing that existing product. So I'm going to go to a product within this brand or this brand family that does have some data about it. So I mentioned that I already carry a product from another brand from this same craft brewer, and it's this sixpence stout. So when I look at this and I go down to the product level, another way that I could have created this product was simply by copying the sixpence stout. It would have had so much of that information and a little bit more, but not necessarily what I wanted. So if the product type were different, for example, obviously I would have had to change that when I copied it, but now these things are linked together with the global data. So if I had created it from scratch, it would link itself eventually. It would connect with the global database and things like that. I would be able to bring it in through the product manager. But because I pulled this product down from global products and put it in my site that way, it's already linked. This product manager piece is really, really easy. So I can come into the product manager and change anything I want about it. So I can see that craft brewer still hasn't put a suggested price on here. That isn't something that I need to change. As I look through this data, things that I might change are if they suddenly had a seasonal start month day on it. And it looks like they don't, but I do have that information filled out for me here. So if I were going to change anything, I would simply fill in the bubble over here to pull down the information from the global database on the right side of the page into my database on the left. So I'm able to, again, synthesize that data, link them up in appropriate ways, and then I don't have to re-enter things. I can pull down those seasonal start and end dates. I can refresh my case and carrier UPCs. I can correct the data about the height, width, or length of it. And something that I like to point out, it's not on this product, but if I had images relating to this product, I would see them down here. If the logo changed or the colors, the style of the can or whatever, I would be able to pull that information in. And this is so helpful for the people in your warehouse as they're doing picking. They see the image on their screen, and then they're more likely to pick the appropriate product. It's beneficial for all on the retail end of things. If they're logging in to DS D-Link to place their orders on a mobile device, then we want them to also see the correct picture. And for our sales and delivery folks who are out in the world, if they are selling the product, then we want to be able to see it and envision it. If it doesn't look on their screen like what they're looking at in the store, they're going to have that moment where they're like, is this the same? And why? Why would we want them to be having that conversation when they could be having 100 other higher priority conversations with that customer and relationship building? So the value of those images and them being maintained here from the product manager, it means that it's just a simple click of a radio button to select the data that we're going to pull through. So now once we have selected that information, it is as easy as clicking Save Changes. And now if I had made any changes, we would be seeing them here. And I would be able to track that through the audit. Now, if you're ever not sure of why someone made a change or what the change was, you'd be able to see it. So you can see that I set a seasonal start month day and a seasonal end month day earlier in the month. So I changed these dates and I'm here in the audit record to show how and when. Now, if I had done that from Product Manager, you would be seeing that in the page here. Like you can see that I added this product from DSD Link. I manually edited those fields on this table as opposed to pulling them down from the Product Manager, because that's what would show. Let me go back to our product. And again, we're going to look through those subtables to find that most important information. And by the way, if you're ever looking at these tables thinking, what was that checklist? Know that we have that up here. So if you wanted to see that new product setup from a distributor's perspective of what they need to have in order to create a new product in their site, you can see that here. So that distributor version of the checklist is here. We're working on the producer one, so please come back and take a look at it when you can. But that single product, multiple products from DSD Link, that global products, they're also here. So take a look in help resources or ask Bev, our AI assistant, on the support page. But it'll be from these subtables that we're able to find any of those enhancing or supporting records to help us with allocations, taking a look at our bin inventories, which we now have on this product because I have received this in. I can see what bin zone it's in. It's currently in our receiving bin. So we have received these cases. We just haven't put them away yet. But I would be able to find more information about that product from here and then go to that bin zone to figure out what sort of the pick logic is behind it. I can also come into, like I said, the allocations. I can take a look at the product authorizations and update those as needed. If my product cost plan changes, easy to find here. And the way that we add new promotions to it, I can see that this is in different front lines. If I needed to add this to a buy 5, get 1 free promotion, I could do that from here. I just add those promotions products or add them in line and away I go. So now I want this to be in the PD. We're going to go with, I need an NR. That's not the naming convention. All right, I'm going to put it in this Dollar General again. I don't think that this is a discount, but that is how I would be able to do that. And again, following those same fields, I would set the amount, I would set the participation if I needed, identify the free units, and when I'm done, I just click Save Changes. So I can see all of the existing promotions that it's in, any front lines, and continue to build on that. Now, something I'm going to call out is I can see this start and end date here. So I know that the front line for this all other location ends on January 1st, 2025. So I'll need to create a new front line for that, and I'm expecting that site to manage it, but I can see all of the information about any promotional pricing or front line that this product is currently in. Let me just refresh this page because I don't want to make that change. And again, I'm going to go back into the subtables view here so that I can see anything else that I might need to add in order to enhance this product. Now, we've been talking about the seasonality of it, and something that I'm going to call out here is the seasonal start month day and the seasonal end month day. These things are already set, and this product is currently in season. Now, it would auto update to false when these dates do no longer match. This is not an editable field. So you can see as I hover over them that there's a pencil. I can click to edit it. I don't have to open the entire record. I just make this one change and save it. That isn't true of in season, and it's because it is being calculated based on the logic of how I put in that seasonal start month day and seasonal end month day. So that seasonality is being set on the product level because I pulled it down from the global database or because I manually set it. But it's automatically now going to account for this in things like sales reports and in any of my forecasting because if it's not in season, why would I forecast it? I don't want this to be in my summer order. When I get into April and I'm starting to make those sort of decisions, I don't want this to be part of it. So it would automatically leave that out. All right. So what do we do and how do we set products so that the status is no longer active? So if this were a discontinued product, how would I make that change? Now, I can manually edit this and set it to discontinued, but it's going to give me this sort of notification that I can't actually discontinue a product when the on-floor inventory is not set to 0. So that's where I'm going to look back at my bin inventories to see how much I've got. And I've got 208 cases that I need to move. The bin aside, ultimately, that's what it's looking to do. So when I look at this inventory, let me look at the inventory ID. I can see that the status effective is set to active. So it's from this record that I would want to deplete this so that I could set my my product to discontinued. My status effective and my status on the product don't necessarily have to match. I can have status effective of this inventory that's still in stock and my product not yet discontinued, but I do want to prevent myself from ordering it again. And it's going to be a combination of these two things that allow my sales team to see it on their handhelds and make those decisions of, yeah, I think we want to move this product out because it's seasonal, we're trying to deplete it, or create the urgency with their customers saying, I can see that this product is no longer being made. If you want any of it, you should order it now. So again, it's enabling better conversations with your team when your data structure is right behind the scenes. All right. If there's no questions on the product management aspect of things for new, existing, or seasonal discontinued type products, we're going to hop over to the customers section. All right, so it's going to be a similar sort of story. We add new customers, we maintain them over time, and we put them on hold, or they are closed customers at some point for some of them. Hopefully not all of them. Hopefully those customers, our products are so great that we're helping support, an entire industry. But when we add products, again, the story for pricing is that it's the right product at the right time to the right customer. And pricing and promotions, making sure that they are eligible to get the best possible prices is huge part of that story. Templates are an interesting part of their narrative. So templates, I feel like, for invoices, for bill of lading, for any of the kind of things that you send out, they are so neutral when you get them right. They can be so unfortunate when you get them wrong. If the story that Encompass is trying to tell here is that we help you get products to people and help you get paid, that's the job of this software. Templates are a piece of the getting paid piece. We have seen, and maybe you've run into this yourself, where certain chain stores in particular have very specific requirements for what needs to be on a template in order for it to be accepted by them. So having templates that are configurable and simple, that we can set at the customer or the chain level, that we can do different things for split invoices. That's all part of the thinking behind when you add a new customer. Should it get the default template? Should it get split invoices with multiple templates? Or is it part of a chain and it's inheriting that template? There's all kinds of questions around it that you should be considering. Now, the way that we get charges on templates and the way that we get products to people, to those customers, are through distribution areas and charge areas. So while a distribution area is often something that's geographically focused, it doesn't have to be. It could be based on other sort of logic. It could be inherited logic or, some legacy agreements, things like that. It could be based on geography, certain areas of the city, certain counties, things like that, and the charge areas associated with them. So even if the customer who's very remote, you have to go here in Colorado up over a high mountain pass, it takes lots of fuel to get there. They might be in a different kind of charge area if we're charging something like a fuel surcharge to them. So making sure that mix of the access to the right products and charging them appropriately is this magic combination. It gets set on the customer level when we're setting up that customer. Now, I've touched on the idea of chains here. Chains inherit so much information, or customer as a part of a chain does inherit so much information. Things like split invoices, things like templates, those are some common things that we could set there, as well as an AR account. So if we think of, I don't know if y'all order from Amazon as much as I do, but on every online order I've ever had to do, I've had to set a bill to address and a ship to address. And that's that sort of difference between the AR account and the customer. But what's nice about an AR account is, again, it can be set at the chain level or at the customer level, can be set on split invoices. So that combination of the right invoice template for these split invoices, if we have different AR accounts, like the chain pays for the liquor and the store pays for the beer, those are all configurations that we have seen before. So what is that sweet spot of combination for the new customer that you're adding? Now, the next two things, everything that we have talked about in this checklist so far has been in respect to preparing to sell products to them. These last two things are what enable us to sell products to them and what enable you to get paid. Actual concrete things. Without routes and stops, your sales team and your delivery team will not know where to take these products. You can have an address listed on that customer, but if you don't make a plan for how you will sell to them, then how you will deliver to them, are they only doing hot shots? There's just no logic behind that. There's nothing that will automate that process of adding that invoice to the load sheet so that as the salesperson proceeds with their day, they're adding content to it. They're adding those products. Without those stops, the delivery people won't be able to, put them in their route, their daily routes to make those stops. They won't know when or where to stop or any of the parameters around it. So those are essential things to think about because they are the actual process that gets products to people. Then finally, something to think about is DSD link and EDI. So the ways in which you connect to them, the ways that you enable them to connect to you mean that your sales team using DSD link has better conversations. We're going back to this idea that we're prioritizing how those things happen. They're able to log into a system that they're connected directly to you in. They're able to find products that they didn't even know yet that they wanted. They can browse through things so that, those processes are easier for the salesperson when they're on site. And when you're using EDI, I keep saying it's like printing money. It's not quite that easy. There is the mapping that's involved with it. There is some upfront setup, but it just means that those transactions flow. That it means that your 850s, your purchase orders, your 810s, the invoices that you send out, and the 820s, the way that they pay you, they just flow. You don't have to spend the time on them. You can focus on other aspects. Those things are already in place, and it increases the predictability of receiving your AR, of paying that balance due. And who doesn't like that? Anytime we have to spend time chasing down money, it's time well spent, but it's unfortunate time. It doesn't have to exist with these two products in particular, because even smaller mom and pop type shops don't have to spend the time creating EDI maps or any of the configurations with them, supporting them or figuring out why they're not going through, because they just tap to pay on their handheld. They can scan to pay using a QR code. We can scan a check. So these are all things that are available through these last two options. So considering when you're offering those things to new customers and making sure that you're really enhancing the relationship with them. The customer maintenance aspect of all of this is, we want to consider the customer overview is the most common way that we see people performing this customer maintenance. They think about how they are sending statements to when and to whom. That's the customer users part of it, or the AR accounts users. How are we connecting people to this brick and mortar store? We also want to think about, I've never seen a state that didn't have licenses for their customers, and the licenses that expire over time. We have to renew that information. We have to reset that date. So that becomes an aspect of customer maintenance that we just have to think about. It'll pop up on those sales teams' handheld devices or Encompass Mobile while they're out in the field. They just collect it. But also those on hold processes. People are imperfect, and sometimes we put an account on hold. And is it because of a bounce check or, whatever is happening? I'm not sure. But if you need to put a customer on hold, there is a process for that. But we would find a lot of this information in their accounts receivable aging. So once a customer is set up, they have routes and stops, that sort of logic is flowing through. A lot of this is really data-driven customer maintenance. And the way that we manage some of those unique aspects for a customer that is set to inactive or on hold. An inactive customer might be an example. We're going to go back to this idea of seasonality. Previous question that I've had about seasonality, would a university be something that is considered seasonal? Now, in my home state, at my alma mater, there's one of 3 university campuses in this nation, at least last I knew, in the United States, that has an actual bar on campus that is run by the university. Now, there may be bars nearby, but this is a very small cohort. And even that is not a seasonal customer, really, because campus is open year round and that bar is open year round. It has a high season and a low season, but it's not entirely closed. So when we talk about customer seasonality, the thing that we're really thinking about there is places like golf courses that do close for the winter if you're in an area that has that. There is a seasonal aspect to a lot of sports. So if there is a professional, semi-professional, little league team in your area that has a concession stand, that's the kind of seasonality we're talking about, is that they fully shut down for a portion of the year and they're not accepting products. We want to make sure that things like their AR is closed out before the end of the season. And if it's not, that it is closed out before we start delivering them in the new season. So considering that customer seasonality is an important aspect. We would do that through AR aging. Again, we would be able to go to that customer, see how they're aging, and go through that information. And those seasonal open and close dates are where that information gets set. Now, I mentioned on the last slide, and I'm going to mention it again, there are on-hold processes. There's a standard process that you can use here. You can also sort of, configure it to be your own, but that on-hold process is something that we would be able to see back in the site. So let me hop over in our last few minutes, close out of that, and we're going to go over to the customers table. So as I navigate to customers, it's going to be a very similar story. I have the ability to click on add customers to create something from scratch, or the easiest way to do that is going to be to copy it. So I'm going to find an existing customer that I want to copy from, and that's how I'm going to create my new one. So if I go over to this data tab from the customer overview, I'll go to subtables and copy customers. Now, the reason this is the easiest thing is really in the related records. Now, I'm going to have to give it a new name. So if this is Lori's Liquors, I'm going to give it a short name. And I would want to empty out this AR account so that it will just generate a brand new fresh one. That way it's not connected to this other liquor store. I would also have to enter in, the address information as needed. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all of these fields, but the reason that I chose the liquor store to copy from my new liquor store is 1, they're both liquor stores. 2, they're both in the same city. I just have to update the address. 3, they're going to have a lot of the same characteristics for the distribution areas, charge areas, any of these charges that I'm seeing here. I would be able to pull that information over from that existing customer. But this also helps me with some of their existing records. So in the supporting records world, the things that I had to create on the product level for promotions products and things like that, when I'm copying, I do not have to do that. I simply select what I do and don't want to pull over. So I'm not going to pull over store locations. I am going to pull over split invoices, promotions, customers. We're going to leave out customer notes. And now it's as simple as clicking copy record. Now it does want this additional information, so let me pull that in so we can see it together. Oops. Nope. Come on. Excellent. This is what I get for rushing, you guys. Let me cancel out of that. There's a whole bunch of pictures that I didn't need to show you. 80571. All right. So now that I have all of that information in, I simply click copy record. Now, what I'm not going to see in this is the customer history. This is a new customer, and I chose not to pull that information over. So when I create my very first invoice for Lori's Liquors, I won't have any customer history. I'll just be adding new products straight over. But very similar to what we did on that product level, any of the additional information that I needed, allocations, customers, users, promotion zones, split invoices that I would want to build out for them is right here in the subtable. All right, now I mentioned that I would talk about the seasonality. So we're going to find that field in here. And I'm going to put in our seasonal start, open month day and close month day. And those are set for this customer. So it does look like this is something that's running in the summer only. That's fine. I pulled that over from the existing customer and I could easily change that here, but know that those dates are already set for me as a result of that. Now, I want to circle back to the maintenance aspect of it. So here we are on the customer overview. When I searched for this customer, when I started viewing it, after I copied it, it brought me directly to this page. Now, because this is a new customer, I don't have any of that information. So I'm actually going to go back to the one I copied from. I want Booze Clues, and I'm going to search customers for them. And now I can see them in my customer search view. I could still get back to that record simply by clicking this. I can see that their account status is set to active. So we are in season for Booze Clues Liquor Store. And I can also see what their sort of accounts receivable picture is. I could send a statement or view their AR aging and make any changes that I needed to from there. But what I really like about this view from a customer maintenance perspective is that I don't have to go into all of those subtables. I can see their split invoices here without having to add it. So giving me this sort of higher level view of the who, the when, the what, and the why to be able to manage this customer appropriately. If I needed to do something like add customers users, the people at the bar that at the liquor store that I email about their delivery. AR accounts users would be the person paying the bills. So when I send that statement, making sure that I have an AR account user associated with it, that is what enables that type of functionality to be put on an automated cadence or pre-populate their email when I do go to manually send it. I get a whole picture of what is going on in the life of this customer. Now, a common maintenance aspect that we would see here is the salesperson calls me up and says, I need an override code. Their license is expired. I'm entering the new one now, but generate me an override code. I would take that invoice number, generate an override code, and be able to deliver that to the salesperson on the line. Hey, Steve, your code is 12345. Now that gets created here in the customer notes. We would see that I was the one who generated that code and what that code was. So if they're like, oh, shoot, can you give it to me again? You blipped out for a second. I'm able to redeliver it even if I've already closed that window. So I would be able to generate that override code in those instances. And I would be able to do some of that customer maintenance for my licensing. So if they have a new state license number, or if it is just updating that expiration date, these can be done on Encompass Mobile by the salesperson. They can also be done here by me on the server, logged in directly to Encompass. So we would be doing both of those things. Now, the last piece that I'm going to talk about for the customer maintenance perspective, because I know we're running short on time, are the on-hold processes. Now, I want to show you that there is a dashboard that does have this whole process laid out. It has some canned reports. It gives you exactly what to do and how to manage that. So you could always reference this dashboard. But where on hold is being pulled from in that process is actually the AR account. So I can't set that on the customer when we think about the separation between the bill to and the ship to, I want that to be set on the bill to address. So here on Booze Clues, I'm going to go ahead and change their terms. Instead of fintech, I have an on hold term. This is something that comes in every single Encompass account. If you don't have it, it's maybe been renamed or deleted, but I promise it started there. And it enables that out of the box process for on hold. So I simply set their AR account to on hold. And now, again, I'm back in that world of if the salesperson calls me and says, I've collected the money, I've got the check in my hand, can you allow me to put this order in right away? This is a real world scenario. If they have a check in their hand, I probably don't know it back in the office. And even if I do know it, I haven't deposited it yet, so I'm not taking them off on hold until I have that check in the bank. But I am going to provide an override code to my person out in the field so that they're able to enter that invoice or complete that delivery. But this just gives me the tools to be able to make that decision. So I'm empowered in that way to say yes or no to this. There's thought behind it. It isn't something that just happens. I can't just like click next until I'm through it. It has to be thoughtful and intentional. So those are the ways that we would want to manage some of the most critical records that you have in Encompass. What I hope you take away from this session is that good data in means good data out for analysis. And whether that means, do you have the space in your warehouse for this product? What does it look like for forecasting? Is this a seasonal customer that we need to account for the volume that we're purchasing? Is this a seasonal product that we need to deplete the old one before we can bring in the new one? All of that data is now available for analysis because we set it up that way. If you're not doing these things, or if you're already doing these things, it's never too early to implement these best practices. We can integrate them into all of your workflows. The more you know, the more you're able to do great work. And this industry changes all the time. So if you are a long-term customer of Encompass that hasn't been doing these things, it's never too late. This industry changes all of the time. And the current thinking, we want to be able to leverage this global data set. If there are hundreds of other customers that are successfully selling this product, why would we not leverage that same data set that they're doing it successfully? They're bringing that into their inventory. Those UPCs are correct. They're doing it safely. They're storing it in ways that make sense. My theory, and maybe this is a silly one, but I want to make my own mistakes. If I can learn from other people's, great. I don't need to make those. I will make plenty of mistakes in my life, and it's never too late to do better. So thank you so much for your time. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to drop them into the chat. I hope you enjoyed this very first in the series of our Skills Kickstart. If you need more information on it, please don't hesitate to go to the e-learning dashboard where you'll find all of those future sessions available for registration. Take a look on the recording archive at the end of this to find it there. All right. Have we had any questions come through the chat?
We have not.
Okay. Well,
Just
I'm
covered everything, Lori.
assume that was really in detail, and I probably just need another drink of tea at this point. Oh boy. All right. Well, if you do think of questions, I would recommend starting by talking with Bev, the new AI assistant. Go to that customer portal and drop them right in there. Any of the processes that we talked about today, look in help resources, that little question mark in the upper right corner of the page. And again, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to seeing you in the next one.